Good evening, everybody. Just want to say welcome, 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 and thank you guys for joining us. Still got people coming in, so I will continue to let those in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. First, want to just put it out there that normally the hour of empowerment is 1 hour. Or maybe 2 or 3 minutes over, but we typically try to keep it at 1 hour. But we know today's topic is really a hot topic, and we want to just really dive into this. So we may be a little over an hour today. We may be 2 hours a day. I don't know, because we want to talk about it. We want you to ask the questions. We want you to voice your opinion. We want to hear your concerns. We want to hear your thoughts today. So I will let those that, maybe have only set aside 1 hour know that if you decide that you need to jump off when it gets to that 1 hour mark, by all means do so. You will not hurt my feelings whatsoever. If we're not done, it's okay, because we really want to dive into this, but I do understand that time is of the essence. So, but just want to give you a little bit about Operation Care. We are a nonprofit organization that's trying to just empower our community. We aspire to just give education and self-enlightenment and just to help our community become better. We have been dealing with a lot of different topics so far since we launched the Hour of Empowerment. We've talked about finances. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about exercises and eating right and mental mobility. And this is just the beginning, because there's so much more to come. And we do this every week. We do this every Tuesday at 5 p.m. So, and we will be doing this until I don't know when. But right now, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. And today, I have some wonderful people here with me that are going to assist me with this topic today. We wanted to let's talk about matters of the heart. So we want to talk about those things that are going on in the community, that's going around from city to city, state to state, town to town, country to country. We're all here fighting for the same cause. We're all trying to do the same thing. And so first I'm going to introduce to you guys who I have with me today. First I have Ms. Tierra Lofton, who has a master's in criminal justice, and she works with the Mental Health and Addiction Services. And she's also a part of the Cultural Diversity Committee for Mental Health. We have Darian Boone, who is a United States Army veteran. Thank you for your service, Darian.
Thank you.
He is also a community activist. He is the founder of Community of Love United, which is out of Severn, Maryland. They are an outreach, they deal with education, they deal with diversity. They're spreading love and joy and peace and harmony throughout the community. With Unity of Community of Love, they are trying to ensure that whatever it is that they're doing it peacefully, they're doing it out of love, and they're doing it with equality. So they're just trying to build a better life within the community. We also have Ms. Karen Higgins, who is a co-pastor of New Creation Church of Grovetown, Georgia. She is also the founder of a women's ministry, which is designed to encourage, inspire, and uphold and to motivate women, and it's called SWAM, Sisters with Altitude Mentality. Sisters with Altitude Mentality. So we also have Mr. Byron Azale. He has a master's in international studies with a minor in public administration. Byron is also a resident director for higher education. We have Mr. Thomas Farr, who is also an Army veteran. Thank you for your service as well, Thomas. Mr. Farr, he is a part of Jesus Lives Ministries. He also hosts a Christian men talk show, and he does this segment called Man Up. So, and if I believe right, Man Up was kind of created from 1 Corinthians 16:13 through 14, where Paul is giving the gift to the believers, telling them to be strong in their faith and to do everything out of love. So again, we're talking about love here, and we're gonna run this segment today based off of love. We also have Miss Donna Jenkins. Donna is the founder and the pastor of Total Deliverance Outreach Ministry. She is also the CEO and founder of Tender Touch Care Services and Activity. And she specializes in home health care, and she's also a cook. So, you know, we might get some kind of virtual something at the end. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there just in case. We have Mr. Stanley Purvis. Stanley has, when we talk about education, so Stanley has a degree in urban planning from East Carolina. So I think you've got one of your college mates up here as well. So from East Carolina. He also has a master's in education. He's been a counselor for education at the high school. He also is a co-director of a counselor's division for a marriage ministry. He deals with behavior specialists. He's a crisis counselor. He's also an ordained minister and has been a pastor for quite some time as well. We also have Shonda Rodriguez. Shonda is, I believe she's almost done, like right at that tip, like if you cough, she's got that degree, psychology. Awesome job there, Shonda, for sticking in there. She's also a paraprofessional for autistic children. We have Kara Watson, who is a social worker, and she's a licensed practitioner counselor. So just want to say thank you to all of my panelists here. I greatly appreciate you coming on board with us and being a part of something great. Want to also say thank you again to my veterans. I too am a veteran, so thank you guys for your services. Job well done. Want to also just say thank you to all veterans because you are definitely pillars in the community, and without that knowledge and expertise, a lot of things that we get done, we wouldn't be able to do it without you. So thank you to all veterans, whether you're a part of this panel or whether you're watching this video. Thank you for your service. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. And first, I just want to start out and just say, because we're dealing with so much stuff, can we just do a virtual hug? Can you just hug yourself? Just do a virtual hug today. Like, just love yourself, because some of us haven't had a hug in a minute. And, you know, sometimes it's just good to you got to love yourself, because love has to start from the inside. If it's not on the inside, it does not exude to the outside. So first, we're going to begin with ourselves. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, because we know it's as if though Black people have been targeted for many, long before you and I were ever even thought of, years. And we have dealt with some stuff that is just inhumane. unhumane. And so I just wanted to just kind of get around here of just tell me what you think about that. How do you feel about that? What does this make you feel like? And I'll say to those of you um, that are just logging in, if you have a question or you have a concern, just hit me up in the chat and I will do my best to make sure that we address any and all of your questions and your concerns as well. So I'm going to start off with you, Tiara. Can you tell me what that means to you? Tell me how does all of this police brutality, how does this affect you? What do you think about that? I think you muted yourself. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
It said the host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. Um, but I mean, for me, this last incident, I mean, like you said, it's been going on for years and years and years, but this last incident was just, it took an emotional toll on me. I felt as though, like, I literally shed tears. I felt as though I was I felt like I was part of George Floyd's family. I felt that pain and that oppression that my ancestors have felt, my parents have felt in the past. I felt that, and it didn't feel good. And I feel like now we are at a place where we are now. Let me start over. Where we are now, I think systematic changes need to occur, and I think we need to start there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Byron? So try to unmute you because I didn't mute you guys.
Um,
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would agree with, can y'all hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
I would say that I agree with Pierre in the same regard that probably for the first time, even since there's been this vivid increase since 2012 with the first shooting that kind of started this wave of um, public slayings in the street, video recordings, that I felt maybe the weight of what I would consider to be what my ancestors may have felt with the George Floyd death. I think that was mainly due to the fact that it was like you were watching a clear film. It wasn't like there's a lot of background noise and inconsistencies with the camera angle. It was very clear about how he died. And how I feel about that, there's been this uproar and this outcry from a lot of people. The question I have is it sustainable? Are you crying loud enough to be heard? Are you going to be heard? What's going to be the response from quote unquote those in charge of the system? And personally, what are we doing? I mean, I know that I'm working in a few avenues to trying to do some things in higher education at the university I work with. But what is this anger kind of producing in you? And where are you directing your anger towards? And what are you building in response to that? And so that's where my heartbeat is in response, is that, you don't want people to die in vain. And the reality is it could have been me. It could have been you. And we have another chance to bring honor and dignity to our brothers and sisters who've been slain pretty much in the streets.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. We're going to come back to some of that, but you just want to hear what you guys got to say first. So, Mustafar.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Amen. Amen. Well, I had a couple of things with it. Was well, first seeing it took a couple of days when you actually see the video and what happened. And one of the things that really stood out to me was that I'm seeing a lot of. We have it's just standing there and watching. And I'm about, let me say this, from the 70s, 80s. So we have a different perspective on the whole thing because, you know, everybody's, the fact that we're standing there for 8 minutes and watch that man die like that and do nothing, nothing. You tell me that street full of people, it means a lot could have been done. So I really feel that that's the issue. What do we witnessed this? Because when we went to generations in the past, it might have happened. It didn't happen in broad daylight. I don't remember these kind of incidents happening in broad daylight or happening on the streets and no one engaged. You know what I mean? Because it didn't have to. They didn't have to, like. I don't believe they had to mob the cops. But they had engaged the cops. They could have saved his life. That's one thing that, as I watched it, that really understand how people just stand there and watch that happen. Now, the other part of it is, I believe, again, from my perspective, is it's, you know, again, I don't know, you know, there's a lot of words being used, and a lot of emotions being used when it comes to epidemic and how police certain neighborhoods and communities, which is something that, again, you have to look at each individual municipality, police department in their history. But I do believe that I think right now there's a lot of opportunity, hopefully, that what's going on now, there'll be some productive rage. But so far, if we look around and we look around clearly, nothing's really happened to change the circumstances. Everybody's got a you know, everybody has a problem and an issue, but there has been no real movement to change it, you know, and that's the part hopefully that this generation of people who are going to be engaged and engaged to have this rage be productive, okay? Because the marches and all the things I'm seeing a lot of superficial. And I think we need, in these local communities, all the way down to people who live in these police districts, the city councils, the mayors, they have to really get involved and fix this thing. And it has to start. It's not going to be a sweeping, you know, they're talking about sweeping reforms, but that's all words to me. I'm just of a certain generation that all that is words, but what are you really going to do? And are you going to engage your local police force? I understand we got national things all over the place, but for example, what's in Anne Arundel County, what's really going on in Anne Arundel County, and how are we going to fix it here? For the folk in Baltimore, what's the plan and strategy? Because a lot of things are being said about who's running these cities and who's running these police departments. And I'll say this, my final piece was, I'm from back in the day when they struggled to get Black, Hispanic, and people of colors on these police departments, because that was one of the big things back for me in the 70s and 80s, that they wanted to get people who look like us on the police force, and that was supposed to help curb some of this stuff, because it's not really new the way it would happen. But again, it's all about it, because what's the mayor, the police chief in Seattle, you know, there's a Black woman there. There's other police chiefs in other places who are in control of these police departments. There's leadership within them. So how come things haven't really changed? And now we're doing all this, and we're up in arms, but we have people who look like us. There's Hispanic police officers. They have all these organizations. So what are they doing from the inside? And I think some accountability has to fall back on them. So to me, that's just where my perspective of it is. What's been going on, and now with all of this, after this is done, what's next? Back to you, Sitalis.
Okay. I'm taking some notes here just so you guys know, because we want to bring this back around.
Amen.
What you got, Jerry B?
Hey. That's a very sensitive topic. But I'm always a firm believer that, and I'm going to use clearly, water rolls down the hill. So everything to me starts at the top. So if somebody's standing at the top in any direction as far as directive or department, if you're standing at the top, it's only obvious you can see everything that's going on because you're at the top. So then my other thought is, things or prejudices or racisms happen is only if good people let it happen. So you have these things happening because people are letting it happen. They've been happening because it's been happening because, as I said, people stood out of the way. So, one person spoke about, back in the days, and as you stated, for hundreds of years, this has been going on. So it's only been going on because we don't have a foundation to submerge this issue. So now that we have that, this time in 2020, to be able to submerge it, we have to somehow from the top get these people from the top that's standing in these departments, not only the police, but in justice departments and legislations and all these type of departments and law and order. They have to step up. If they don't step up in these departments, because they're in that spider's web, so to speak, to be able to make a difference, then there won't be a difference. Sure, you can get people marching up and down the street all day long, but the movers and the shakers are on the hill, so to speak, looking down in these departments of justice, of race relations, and things like that. So it won't move until we have those people move. And we have to agree that there are people that are scared to make that move. If someone's scared, then have somebody else do it. But it has to be a move, and it has to be now. That's what I have to say, Sister Hollis.
Kara, what you got to say?
So Hollis, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think the night before I saw the video of George, and I couldn't watch the whole thing. It was really hard for me to watch the video. And that night I had really bad anxiety, like that feeling in my chest where it was really tight and I couldn't sleep. And I decided to write this, I decided to write my feelings on paper, and I wrote it down, and I woke up the next morning and I said, I'm gonna post this on my company website. And it's this message system that sends out to all the employees in our Massachusetts, our New York, and our Connecticut market. And it was just me basically saying, I'm tired of this. I can't stand to see this anymore. And we need more people on our team. It can't just be us Black people going for us Black people anymore. We need the white people who someone else was saying who were standing by and watching. We need them to start stepping up and doing what they need to do for us too. And for me, I'm tired of tippy-toeing around like the subject at work or around other white people. For me, like, I want to speak our truth, and I've been devoted to that at work, and we're starting to talk about some things that we want new employees to do, like signing an anti-racist pledge. Like, if you're coming here, don't think that that's gonna fly, and people will call you out, and people will be proud to call you out. I agree with others that we need to start doing more, and we can't just sit by and just watch these things happen anymore. We have to start standing up for ourselves more and speaking up and joining things like this and doing more so that the word is spreading out that we're not taking this anymore. I think a lot of jobs too aren't even acknowledging what's going on right now because they're scared, right? And they don't want to talk about it. And some people think it's okay, right? The racist people, they're like, yeah, this should be happening. And so I think that's part of the problem too. And I think we need to force employers to start talking about this and start saying like, this is not something that we agree with, and this is something that needs to stop. And people need to take a really good look at what's going on and start just making changes, like everyone is saying. And I am devoted to making the changes.
Awesome. Come on, Jonah, what you got?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Listening to everyone, everything was good and positive. And just like with the George Floyd killing, it kind of took a toll on me because I never really been a political person, but I always been a person for truth and justice. Now, he literally murdered that man on national media. He murdered him. There was no accident about it. He literally murdered him. Now, this is the second time in my lifetime I've seen a riot. And that was back in the 60s when they killed Martin Luther King. And we was on curfew. Martin Luther King. And we was on curfew at that time. But this time, the riot was more intense. It was more damage done. It wasn't just done in the Black community, but it was done in the white community. It was done in the Hispanic. And then you had multicultural people that was marching saying Black Lives Matter. Okay? So in order for us to really grab a hold of it and to really speak up, have those that's not scared to really speak up, because I have 6 sons, grown sons, and I tell them, look, I know what was done was wrong, and there's no justification about it. Police and racism have been way back in time, but you don't have to be that person. All white people is not bad. Because you have to think about how many white people back in the slavery time actually lost their lives for hiding slaves, so they wouldn't be killed. So you have to look at this thing on both sides. And where I am now, some of the white people are literally scared of Black people now. They literally scared to walk by them because of they think everybody gonna lash out at them, or everybody gonna jump on them, or everybody gonna attack them or attack their business. Once we get out there and we get hold of, I would call our next generation, which is our young men. And I'm praying that the strong men, not the violent men, but the strong men that have good standards. Not saying they have to be Christian all the time, because you have strong men that have good morals that even ain't Christian yet, but they have a voice and they have influence where they can change our young men's lives. Yeah, we women, we always been there. We always been strong women. We always try to teach our sons, but I'm calling for the strong men, no matter what races they are. Get these young boys, let them know who they really are and what they can accomplish by, once they know who they are, stand for justice. And then they can gather themselves together and go before the justice of peace, go to the White House, but go in peace. Don't go with a whole lot of, slang words or nothing like that, but go in peace. Because the Bible tells us a soft word will move direct. But as long as we keep speaking violent or you know, I'm going to get you and you're not going to do this and do that. It's not. But we got to grab the mind of our people. We got to get their mindset have to change. And I really believe that justice can be done. And that goes to, and that we pray that justice people be in high places. Bring down the wicked and put justice people no matter what color they are.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. What you got, Mr. Purvis?
Okay, I want to say that video, first of all, the video for me, I think it just woke up history. What I mean by that is it woke up the feeling of people being lynched. It woke up the feeling of people being murdered unjustifiably. It just really woke up history where people had gotten so comfortable and complacent in the life that we live day to day. And I think that video really woke up something inside of people to say, okay, enough is enough. That's just not right. So I think that's really what propelled people to step out into the streets and say, I'm going to make my stance. We're going to protest. And then from just a few, it became a movement, which is so needed, because for change to happen, it's going to take, as someone said before, more than just one or two people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movement for those who are in power to hear and understand that we're not going away so easily this time. It may have been that way before, but now it's not gonna go down like that. So I want to say, I believe it really woke up history for a lot of people, even the young people. As a former school counselor in high school, I've counseled thousands of students, and it's amazing, just being honest, how many young Black people don't know their history. They just know that there were slaves because it's not in our textbook. And for whatever reasons, a lot of us haven't taken the time to educate them on that history. And so that's why a lot of them can coexist and don't really understand the history. But even not knowing that fully, I think when they saw that video and the police officer for such a long period of time and with such a blank look on his face, it woke up something inside of not just African Americans or Black people. It woke up people who said, enough is enough. And I wanted to address change. Change with the protest. Yes, people are using this, but it's to get the attention. You got to get people's attention first. So this is why people are protesting, saying not only enough is enough, but we can sit in our homes and talk about it, or we can get out here and be visible for those who make policy to understand we're not going away so easily this time. So change, and it takes place over time. It takes time. So it's not going to happen just because you have people marching in the street today and tomorrow we're going to have policies. Policy making takes time. It takes time. I wanted to say that it's going to take time, but we can't let up. Just because we don't get it now, we can't let up. And I also wanted to say that those people who are in leadership roles, I'm in the South, I'm in North Carolina, and ironically, 2 days ago, my wife was saying when they've had all these police chiefs across the country where they've had all this protesting and rioting, a lot of them have been females, but African-American females. She said, oh my goodness, where are all these, these police chiefs who are African females, where are they coming from? And I say that to say, even they who are in leadership roles, they have policies that govern them. Until those policies change, if they want to remain in their jobs and positions, they have laws that they have to follow. What role we have to play is we have to come in and say, okay, we're here to back you now. Now they understand that some of the things that they themselves have endured, even in the workplace, they've got people behind them to say enough is enough. So this is why we can't let up. And now is the time to really push and demand change. We have to go with the momentum while we have their ear, while they see we're not going to just back down and say, yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am, like we have in the past. We have their power in numbers. We have some numbers now. So we have to be vigilant, but also we got to understand it's going to take time, and we've got to stay the course. And how do we do that? Voting. I'm just throw that in there. It's enough of talking, because if we don't get out and vote, guess what, guys? These same people who get to vote on policies, who have hatred in their hearts, who may put on a tie and say, vote for me, I'm going to help your community until I'm elected, those same people are going to be the people who are making policy. So we can talk about it. I want to see these numbers that are in the streets, and even some who are not, those of us who are looking on the panel and those of us who have chimed in, see us get out the vote. Get other people out the vote, because we have to have change, and it starts, as someone said, water runs down. It's in the White House. So we got to do more than talk about it. We've got momentum. This is an opportune time for us to bring about change and fill out the census so we can get resources in our community. We can't be complacent and sit back and say, oh, I'm not going to worry about that. Or I don't matter. Oh, but you do matter. We need to get people to complete the census so our numbers will count and monies will come into our communities. We need people to get out and vote, so then we can enact change and say, guess what? Those of you who have been racist and who have voted on racist lines, we're not going to allow you to continue to govern our community, our state, our country. This is how we enact change, but change takes time.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Shonda, what you guys doing, lady?
As far as the George Floyd video, when I watched it, that hurt my heart to the core, because I thought of it as if what if that was one of my brothers or one of my nephews, God forbid, or my son. And just to be treated so inhumane, as if your life doesn't matter, as if you're not even a human being, it just brings tears to my eyes. But I've been praying and telling God, I hope that I'm proud of our people for protesting, I really am. But I hope that it does not bring us to the point of hate, because you can get so angry until you start to build hate in your heart. And I pray that our people do not start to gain hate in their heart, because as the lady was saying, not all white people are racist. Speaking from someone who has a husband who is not African American, and my husband is far from racist. So we have to realize that we have to just unite as a community, no matter what race, no matter what culture, just unite and stand up for the right things and the right cause, and not get to the point of hatred, because you don't want to hate anyone. Hate is a strong thing to get in your heart. And with this generation, they're very easy to get to that point. And I pray that they don't. And I was saying to my mom, it's going to take more than just these protests. Is deeper. As the man was saying, we need to vote. We need to be advocates. We need to do more things to push the fact of injustice and stand together in unity, because, you know, that's what the enemy wants us to do. He wants us to not unite. He wants us to be divided. But if we read our Bible, it tells us that division is a house that's divided will fall. And we don't want that to happen to our community, but we have to stand together, and we have to stand up for what's right, no matter what culture, no matter what race, no matter who it is. Just stand up for whatever is the right thing to do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Carol, where we at? What we got?
When I saw the video, I was very sad, and I did not like, as I'm going to say the young man said prior to her speaking, to see him with his knee on his neck. And he had there was no remorse. It's like he was there, and it's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to kill him in public, and there's nothing you can do about it. That bothered me more so than anything. And this is a grown man. Floyd was a grown man, and there was no help for him. And to hear him call for his mother, which they said is deceased, you know, it was like, this is my first time I've ever seen a murder. And that's what it was. It was just, he killed him in broad daylight. And I felt really bad for him. And to stand around and watch people video, which is, you know, what everyone does now. You video and you see it, but I can't only imagine him thinking, I'm dying. It's being recorded, but why aren't these people helping me? And there's no telling how it would have turned out if other people would have, actually just pushed their way in to help him if it would have been bigger, if more people would have been killed, and they would have justified it. So I want to see how it's going to end. And I know if you constantly sweep things under the rug or just give the policeman or whoever's in charge just a slap on their wrist, this is what happens. Sometimes people that are in authority, they abuse their power. They abuse their authority. And I do think it's just time for us to come together as a race, as people, as humans, because Black people, we are human too. All lives do matter. Black lives matter. All lives matter. But one thing I do like is that even watching the news, seeing people even in London protesting. So you don't have just the Black race protesting, but you have everyone coming together and protesting. But we have to see it through. Something has to be done. It's a praying time. And I do know that, and I believe it is part of God's process, because Jesus had to be whipped and he had to be killed so that we can live and we can have life more abundantly, and so this just has, this had to have been his purpose, George's purpose, because this is what happened. We just don't always like the process. And so in the meantime, I just think it's a time of prayer. It's a time of making your calling election sure, because we don't know, who's going to be next. And I know it's not the first, as the old people say, and it's not going to be the last. But it is a praying time. And, we have to do what we know is right for the Black race, for the human race. We just have to do what's right as human beings.
I want to make sure that I got everybody. Did I miss anybody? When I tell y'all, we got some chats going on here. We got some chats going on. I'm gonna try to break some of this out for you guys. I got an ECU baby. That's just a little jokey joke for the ECU camaraderie here. All right. So someone said, power concedes nothing without demand. Never did, never will. Frederick Douglass. The people had to demand change, which is what the young people are doing. Hold that thought. There's another comment that says, it should be mentioned that back some 14 years ago, it was reported that the KKK was infiltrating the PDs, and they did the military. Change will and can come as we remove and put policies in place to correct what is there now. What you guys think about that? I agree that policies does make change. And just like Mr. Purvis said, it takes time. Those of us that have worked a job anywhere will know that change did not happen overnight. We fussed, we cussed, we went around and around, whatever it was that we did. We know that change did not happen just that one time, but we had to stay leaning in on that. And you can't let it go. Like you have to make your voices heard, but you also got to make sure that it gets to the top. And as Mr. Derry B said, it starts at the top. And we all know it rolls downhill. And I won't use my Navy words for that, but it starts at the top and it rolls downhill. So that is a fact. So I saw a hand up. What you got, Byron?
Perfect. So I think that question that was asked is a common question. And for me, I'm a Christian, so a part of my answer will come through that lens. But I have 2 points to make. Paul talks about this in the scriptures, how in Romans 7, he talks about how he did not know that he even had coveting in his heart until it was revealed to him, in a sense that he speaks of the law as being the thing that reveals that we are in need of God, that we are sinners, and things of that nature. And so, but the law isn't the thing that changes humans on a personal level. And so the personal change that laws are put into place to govern people, to maintain control and things of that nature on a large scale. And that's a good thing. But the personal change has got to be an act of God. And so a part of the issue with racism and systemic injustice and things of that nature is that not everyone in the world is a Christian. Not everyone is following Jesus. Not everyone is loving in the way that the Bible would require or call us to kind of love and live and things of that nature. And that's just going to be how it is. But how do we navigate that? Is that we've got to find a way to get people to Jesus if we really want their hearts to change so that they can love people that don't look like them, on one hand. And on the other hand is that we look for this public change, is that we got to have people of color being policymakers. Like everyone can't shrink back in their corners. We have to have people who are intentionally going to school to become the people who are writing our policy and our legislation and things of that nature, even if that means they're not going into for a period of time to other areas that they want to go into. And so that's usually how I look at questions like that, is what do we need to do, where it's twofold, is that individuals have to change, but that's a heart change. It's a divine encounter with God, the living God. It's not something that a policy or a law can do. And on the other hand, is this the mass control that we want to do that comes through policy change, like, and comes through legislation and comes through writing laws and things of that nature. So that's what if that makes sense, it's kind of how I see that.
Okay. Does anybody want to add on to that? Okay.
I totally agree with him, and I agree with the lady that husband is white. If we can teach them not to have the hatred, because even when they saying that it was a racist thing what he did, which it were, but then also the black show they're racist. Okay, we can demand and we don't give up. We keep fighting for what we want. But how do we fight? How do we fight? How do we get what we want without a whole lot of violence, or without a whole lot of death, or without a whole lot of what I'm trying to say, words that just destroy everyone. First of all, if we keep Christ first, because he's the ultimate one that's going to able to heal the land. He's the ultimate one. And like it wasn't just America, like the young lady was saying, that were protesting. It was a global protest, along with you had the COVID-19. So I'm looking at all of this. We're going to come out on top, but we as believers, or we as pastors, or we that are civil rights leaders, if we can come together, and we come with, first we pray and ask God give us a solution. God give us the equator to this problem that we can get it fixed. Yeah, we keep on fighting. We keep on standing for what's right. But God, help us to grab these people that's out here. Help us to grab our young people. What do we do? If you can put what you got and I put what I got, whether you save or not, but we come in agreement. That's the power what we gonna have when everybody come in agreement, whether you save or whether you're not saved. It's the power of agreement. So if I can take my saved self and you can take your saved self or your political self, as I may say in that matter, and we come together. We come with the equator. We come with a solution. Hey, let's get out here. Let's come out the four walls of the church, quote unquote. The problem is outside the church. But we're worried about who gonna contact me, or who gonna give me the virus. Okay, we put your mask on, because there are many of them out there now don't even wear no mask. Corona name ain't even really the topic. Only time you hear corona when you talk in the news. But corona ain't even the main issue now. It's about the violence. It's about what I want. It's about George Floyd and his death. But I really believe all of this was in the purpose and the plan of God, that we gonna get our rights, but we got to get it the right way. We got to teach others how to get it the right way. So I just believe in coming on one accord, and it's a good topic because nobody has the right answer, nobody has the wrong answer. It's just the answers coming together and finding a solution.
We're just all giving our thoughts on it.
Right.
Yeah, good stuff. So here's another thing, and I think, Carla, did you have something you wanted to say?
Wait a minute. Okay, so I'm unmuted. Okay, so I was just trying to say, you know, faith without works is dead. So I think the young folks did come up, and the young folks said, look, I'm tired of it. I'm a boomer, I'm older, I've seen it all my life. Now, we sit around and talk all the time about what we should do and all that, but the young folks said we have to move, and they moved. And I appreciate that, because it's like we were still sitting around here talking. And so the thing was, they started locally, just like in Annapolis, where I'm from. You know, I'm in the community association, and we were saying, what can we do locally? And we were sitting around trying to talk. They were moving. Next thing you know, 30 went to 300, went to 1,000. They got the mayor together, they got the county executive together, they got everyone together. We still sitting and talking. So what can you do? You can do what you can do. Like, I can put things out. I'm not leaving my house because, you know, I'm old and I don't want the Rona. So, and I can direct everybody where to go, and I can tell them this is happening here, this is happening there, food is going here. I'm vice president of my association. You know, give people get food for the you know, for the pandemic, COVID people, and all that. But when you come back to George Floyd, the thing was, they started moving. The young folks started moving. Didn't care who was who, black, white, Hispanic, whatever. If you're with us, join us, right? And they had a voice, and they said, we want justice. They didn't go to the negative, say no justice, no peace. They didn't go to the negative, they went to the positive. We want justice, you know? And so when they got everyone together, they started saying, what can you do? What can you do? County executive, what can you do? Police chief, what can you do? And then they started saying, yes, what can we do? And then when they started saying Black Lives Matter, and the people were saying, they said, well, if you can't say Black Lives Matter, then you're part of the problem, because you're gonna go to all lives matter. Well, if Black lives don't matter, then all lives can't matter, can it? So when they started there, they started moving, and it started locally. And it started with the young folks' voice. And people said, what can we do? You can do what you can do. Like, I'm sitting home, you know, gathering information, putting things out there. That's what I can do. Young folks are doing things, but we have to keep it going. We can't stop. And if the young folks want to do it, then you go on with them, say, how can I help you? So that's what I want to say. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Carla.
All right.
So someone's made a comment, and their comment was that white people have been taught to fear Black people since the time of slavery. And that's been embedded in their brains, and it goes on from generation to generation. And, you know, they brought up the fact that Martin Luther King was about, you know, peace and, you know,
okay,
and then
my
you
turn.
saw
Wait,
what happened to Martin Luther King. So one thing that I saw that I thought it was kind of cool, it was interesting. I saw this video that I think it was Muhammad Ali had done, and he talked about, you know, like all things white. Angels are white, You got the angel food cake. It's white. You know, you've got the everything that we know that's associated with good and positive has been white. And the things that we associate with negativity or derogatory or hatred has been black.
Where are you?
So he used for an example, devil's food cake. What color is it? It's chocolate.
FaceTime me.
What you guys got to say about that?
This is Stanley. I agree.
It's
I
me.
think
Oh,
education is so important. We have to educate. And the reason I say educate, I'm from the South, as I said, and I have had an opportunity where there were interracial couples who were afraid to be together, especially at school. And one of the reasons was because, as someone said before, they were taught that the community as a whole, it was ingrained in them. They were taught to hate. Love has no color. Yes, I'm African American, and my wife is African American. But I had to, you know, in my office, work with these young people to let them know that, you know, if you care for this person, you don't have to hate them because of the color of their skin. And because it is so ingrained, we have to have some conversations, and someone mentioned it earlier, in discussions to educate, because there really truly are, especially the younger generation, they don't see the world as the pastor said earlier, as the older generation. They don't see it quite the same. They were raised at a different time. But we have to educate people so that we can break down some barriers. And some of them have been taught to hate. And as Hollis was saying, I mean, the media has played into it, even on movies and things past. And so people looked at us in a certain way because that's just the way we were portrayed. Or they told us, and like you said, even the lady who said people are afraid to walk by Black people now. There are people who are married to, for example, have a white spouse who may be living in their neighborhood, but just because their skin is Black doesn't mean they're going to affect you. But if that's what's in your heart, that's what's in your mind, we have to re-educate. We have to be willing to have some discussions and conversations so we can see each other some differently. And the truth be told, even African Americans, we have some biases we have to let go. There are people who talk about anger who are walking around thinking that all policemen are bad or all white folk don't like Black people. That is so not true. You know, let me just throw this in. From undergraduate school and college, I went to a PWI, predominantly white institution, as undergraduate. And I had several roommates. The best roommate I had in college was a white guy named John. Loved my brothers, but I'm just telling you, the best roommate I had. And I tell that story because I'm African American, born, will die African American, love my race. But I say that to say not all white people are bad. Not all Hispanic people are bad. Not all Asians are bad. We have to be willing to have some conversations, guys, with each other of the opposite race to educate them, because a lot of them simply do not know.
Very good. So I am going to unmute Gail because she has a really good question that she would like to address to the group.
I can't hear her.
I think she needs to unmute herself as well. I've unmuted her.
I'm good now.
There she go.
Hi, the question you're referring to is one about the local boards?
Yes.
Okay. My question that I sent to Ms. Woodard was, how many of us, I hear everybody saying what we need to do and what we should do. How many of us have you know, engaged in being involved in our local community boards, you know, as commissioners, as, not saying you have to run for an office, but, you know, most townships have volunteer commissioner positions that come out. Even if you don't get selected, you can always go down to the meetings and you can have your voice heard. Because when Barack left office, one of the blueprints that he put out and that his foundation stands on is that we have to start at the lowest level. You know, back in the day, I was a council person in New Jersey, okay? And the politics at that level was so much worse, I think, it was at a higher level because they were trying to get up. And they were selling souls like you just wouldn't believe. And this was just to become a council person or a mayor or anything like that. So it's incumbent upon us to get involved, okay? We can't just say everybody else or think everybody else is going to do this. We have to make time. These meetings are at night. And now most of the townships are putting things on YouTube. So you can actually write in. Once they get your name and they know you're interested, I get the emails all the time that there's going to be a planning board meeting. I put in for 2 boards already. I did not get selected for either one. But I'm also taking the township class to learn about every department in the town, in the city. So we have to first commit ourselves to what we're willing to do, and we have to find the time to do that because that's not in our schedule already. This is outside of our everyday lives that we have to do this. And that's all.
Thank you, Gail. Very good. I think that we all are agreeing with the fact that we have to get involved. There's things out there that while we're doing our homework to research our history, we need to do our homework to research how we make it better. You know, maybe we should start seeing some of those things posted on social media. Maybe you know, how to get involved with your state, how to get involved, you know, in your city, in your county. Maybe some of those things should be some stuff that we see as well. Now, I love the fact because I've learned so much since George Floyd's case, and that was the first time I'd ever seen death before, and it's something that I won't forget either. But involvement, we have to get involved. What do you have there, Mr. Farr?
Amen. Thank you. It's a couple things. I was listening to everybody, and I think what we're all saying is 2 things. We have to, at first, encourage ourselves and encourage others around us in our circle of influence to start getting involved with more of the civil. I think the sister was saying about churches getting outside the walls. I mean, again, my perspective is, I remember when things were done on the grassroots community levels to seek change, speaking to city councils, going to, like the other sister was saying, participating in your local governments to seek that change. And I think it's a multifaceted plan that has to come forth, and everybody can have a part in that. And I think, but like I think the hardest thing is going to be organizing. Because once again, because I still see what's going on now with the protests every weekend and stuff like that. It's still people feeding off their emotions. And if we're honest, we realize a lot of things don't change with emotion. We get stirred up for whatever reason, but then when our emotions calm down, the adrenaline goes down. What are we going to actually do to get the change that we're seeking? And that goes with an ongoing long-term plan of interacting first in our local communities, and also with the brother in North Carolina was saying about voting. And then there's other pieces about, again, our circular influence. It's about mentoring. It's about talking to the young people. Because not talking to them when they're angry and they out here and they just going out buying Black Lives Matter t-shirts, but talking and educating them in a way to understand how their lives interact with the rest of the greater community, okay? Because because if we step back, something that I remember back in the day, there was something that Jesse Jackson said back when he had a voice. He said, if racism disappeared today, there'd still be a lot of problems in our communities. If all racism was cured today, there'd still be a lot of problems in our communities. And I think when we're talking about the injustice and all these things, those are problems that exist. Even if this culture, if there was no racism, the way police treat people on the street, all of it is not necessarily based on race. It's based on perceptions. It's based on social economics. It's based on behaviors. So it's that's why there's a lot to it, and we have to really be multifaceted. And I think my feeling on it is that we have to start moving to where we're talking to each other, and we are sowing into the generation behind us, because their strength, they got strong arms and strong legs and strong hearts. But if they're misguided, it's going to all go for naught, and it's not going to really do anything. So it takes a generation, and it takes us actually having to get involved. But again, I just think it's multifaceted, and we just have to find ways to get to work together to get it. And a lot of folk were saying about they know white people and not all that, but and someone said about white people are raised a certain way. Truth be told, black people was raised a certain way too. Not to trust white people. You gotta think back to your grandma and your great grandma. They told you about white folk and Uncle Tom and not Uncle Tom, Mr. Joe. So that racism is on both sides of the cultures. But again, I say this. I told my son one time, because he, as my son got older and started to understand what's going on in the world, I said, well, don't go back and fight the battles that in my generation and the stuff. There's other stuff you need to focus in on. Because again, this generation and the generation coming, there's so much technology out here. They can't do old school. There's old school protests in the street. There's so much technology out there and ways to get messages out, positive messages, educate folk, because education don't necessarily have to be in the schools. I've got Facebook and Twitter, but there's all kinds of other social media platforms on there. But where are the reasonable, clear, and educated voices on those other platforms that can reach a generation so they know what they're actually talking about? And that's where I think it is that we have to, again, I believe it's multifaceted, and we have to really try and cultivate some of this passion. Like I said, young folk, they got strong arms, strong legs, and hearts, and willing to go. But then we gotta make sure they're going in the right direction. That something's actually going to change, because they only going to hear, they only may receive and hear from certain folk. But we all have to be on the same page, because the injustice, it affects everybody, because that crosses across everything. I mean, here in America, I'll say this in closing, that we got to remember, America, if we look around the world, America is unique in that we have so many different people here and live under this flag and under these laws and under all of this. We always going to have this struggle, because it don't take much to throw the race card. The enemy, if they want to do something in America, we just throw the race card. Either side can throw the race card and stir stuff up and get people distracted from stuff that's really going on that we're not paying attention to. So again, it's multifaceted, and then we have to be able to just engage and use those at the protest. But then what's going to happen 6 months from now? This is June. I don't want to take your show, but where do you think we're going to be in 6 months? Really? Where are we going to be in 6 months? They don't even know if the public schools are going to be open and how they're going to deal with that. So how much movement we think we're going to get on this reform, police reform, and all this other stuff? So, what are our goals? What are our demands? Because most of the stuff I'm hearing from some of these fringe things, their demands are stuff that, okay, I don't want to live in that kind of society, because they demand the stuff that I don't even agree with. So again, we all have to be engaged and look for a solution. Back to you, Sister Alice.
So I definitely agree with you. And numbers bring about strength. We're more powerful when we bind together, when we join together. And again, we have to educate. And like you just said, some of the things that's being proposed, many of us probably don't even know what all those things are. So it behooves us to continue to do our homework. And you said something, and I thought it was kind of funny. So back 1988, when I was just a young Hollis, and I was about to leave the Philippines. It was my last night in the Philippines, and myself and a group of young ladies that were my friends, we all decided that we were going to get this. We were going to have these t-shirts made that said, "Black by popular demand." So we all got these shirts made, and we wore them out, and we wore them out to the club. And having these shirts made, I just would have never thought that in 2020, a t-shirt that I wore in 1988, you can see the date on the picture, April the 2nd, 1988, that I would be wearing this. I had a redacted t-shirt, "Black by popular demand," made in June of 2020. So battle. So we can't just let it stop here, but we have to, we can't let it die off. We can't have March not bring about change. We can't keep protesting. We can't keep talking about it. We have to bring some things into action. And I'm not sure if it's like where you guys are, but it's storming here, and my internet is acting a little, trying to do its own thing on me over here. But so we have to get out. Someone mentioned voting. We have to vote. We have become, since Barack, you had more Black people voting because we were voting for a Black president, and we didn't even really look at what Barack stood for. We were really just looking at, he's a Black man and I'm gonna vote for him. And we went to the polls because he's a Black man, and we've never had a Black president before. So I want the Black president. So then we didn't do it just one time, but we went back 2 times and we voted again. But then we had the next election, and we said, oh, well, I don't like none of them, so I ain't gonna vote. So we didn't vote. So we learned something about voting for the presidency, but we didn't learn anything about voting for our governor. We didn't learn anything about voting for our mayor. We didn't learn anything about voting for our own state. Who's gonna be in Congress? All we knew was the president, and that was where we were going to the polls for, was to vote for the president. So in our education, we need to learn who these people are that we're putting in office. What is it that they really stand for? And I'm not saying that you're gonna know all the ins and outs, but Google is your friend. We Google everything else. Let's Google and find out what these people represent. What have they done in the past? And most people have social media. So we can go to their social media and see what they're talking about. What are they posting? We have to educate ourselves. We have to educate our youth. We can't just say, I want change, but the change has to start within. We have to be the change in the beginning. We have to look at the man in the mirror and say, I'm gonna make change starting with myself. Thank you, Michael Jackson. You would make a change starting with myself. And someone made a comment, they said how When everybody's heart is changed and they acknowledge Jesus as their personal savior, the world will be a better place. Well, we know everybody's not going to accept Jesus. The Bible says so. So we already know that. So I agree with you 100%. If that was to happen, Lord knows we would be in a better place. But unfortunately, it's not. So while we're here, because we don't know when Jesus is going to come, for those of us that believe in Jesus, because not everybody even believe that Jesus died. We believe in Mary, we believe in everything else that we want to believe. And I'm not here to talk about anybody's religion. I don't care what you believe in. That is your thoughts, your belief. It's not going to persuade how I believe. So this is not a religious conversation, but while we're here, we have to do better. We have to make provisions. We have to teach the younger generation how to be better. I agree, protesting is great. It got attention. And so that brings me to a question, because we had Breonna Taylor, we had Trayvon Martin, we had Sandra Bland, we just recently, we had Ahmaud Arbery, and we had Ray Sherrod Brooks that on Monday, June the 15th, if those of you that remember the story or maybe saw the story about the Whitney's incident. So it continuously happens. So do we think that the pandemic was partly what got us in such an uproar when we saw the George Floyd? Did you think that that had some to do with it? Because we'd seen, and I'm just naming out a few people, because we know there was like mega. I mean, we even have had, recent the hangings. How all of a sudden are we now just hanging ourselves and no one knows anything? There's no cameras to show anything. All these stores and places have cameras, but nothing is catching these hangings. Could it have been the pandemic? Did that kind of spin us up because we've been, stuck in the house, couldn't go nowhere, couldn't do anything? And now I'd be doggone it if I'm just gonna sit back and, watch this, because now you done just ignited something within me that I never knew that was even there. Or maybe we did know it was there, but we too kind of kept our prejudiceness under subjection as well. I think Carla has something she wants to say.
Well, okay. Okay, I thought you was gonna go to LG Stylo 5. She was first, I think. But what I was gonna say is, oh my God, wait a minute, Hollis. Wait a minute, what were you talking about before? I'm sorry, my train of thought just left.
So I was talking about the pandemic. Did the pandemic?
Okay. Oh, right. I think God slowed everything down for a reason. I really think so. I really think this was a divine plan. I think you had to make everything stop, and everyone, they had to see, what was important, what they would be for, what would they be against, all, like, what happened with the churches and everything, how it just shut down, and everybody had to be still, and then everybody had to come up on this, on the platform, social media platforms. Nobody knew how to do it because they went in the church and said, how we do this now, but it made people stop and look, what's going on here, what's going on there. Everything was quiet. And I think when everyone saw George Floyd, that really brought everything to fore, especially when they saw the callousness of the officer, so I think everything had to be quiet for all this to happen and for everything to come into place. But you were talking about how to get everything together and all that, and I was talking about the local interaction. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland, and Annapolis, Maryland is like the capital of Maryland, right? Annapolis is capital of Maryland. And we our little pocket had annexed in parole. It's this place called Parole, and we annexed because when parole had annexed in 1951, the Black folks there that had moved there said, we need a voice. And so I think why the young people moved is because we kept from 1951, when our Black parents, who were the first ones in Annapolis to own houses as Black folks, they had to keep this thing alive, keep this interaction with the political realm, if you will, in Annapolis alive. They passed that on. So when I said the young folks got in there, they were already aware of things that happened. They already knew about Ward 3. Everyone was ingrained at each household to know who was your ward alderperson, who was your county exec, who was your mayor, who was on the city council. I mean, you had 2 wards beside you. Who was on that? Who was your House representative? Your 2 reps. Who was your senator? Things like that. We know that. And so if people were start from the bottom and know their ladder, it would help. It would help because, you would know what judge to vote for. You would know who to put on your board. Who is teaching your children? You said you didn't know about Black history. Who's teaching your children? Well, when people wasn't giving our children what they needed, they had, the Saturday schools, y'all probably had those, where, your Black parents and all that would teach you Black history and stuff like that. So when I say starts local, that's what I hope everyone gets in their head. It starts local, whether it's in your church, whether it's in your ward. You have people who are politically active. Start with them. If it's NAACP, start with them. If the Boys and Girls Club, they have a lot of things going on there. Look it up. They do. And we are all communicating together in Annapolis because we know, even though you're in this nonprofit, it's something political about it that you're hooked to. And everyone has something like that. And that's why I think it came together so well. We didn't do the like the big cities. We didn't burn everything down. We didn't loot everything. We didn't do that. We were already politically connected. So we had to say, okay, now we're politically connected and we have white people listening to us. So here is our agenda, white people, that we've been fighting all these years. And you said it didn't matter. Well, now everyone in society says it matters. So now what do you say? And we put the onus on them to speak. And that's when it was like, yeah. And so that's how we got together. But we had to start locally, and we had to see who was on that police department. We had to see who was that mayor and all that. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Carla. I know there was someone else. LG Style. LG Style. I'm not sure who that person is because their iPad, I guess, just says LG Style. I'm gonna go ahead and mute them back. All right, so thank you for that, Carla. So would it be safe to say, first of all, everything is gonna start with ourselves, educating ourselves, and then educating our children. And Carla, you brought up a good point because you said, our ancestors maybe didn't pass this information down and we didn't get it, but then how did we educate our children? Well, that's the problem. A lot of us haven't. A lot of us, because it wasn't passed down to us, we've done more research since the uproar, since Black Lives Matter, than we've done in decades on Black history. There were so many things that many people did not know in our own Black history until recent years. I know I've spoken with people and I talked about Juneteenth, and they were like, well, what's Juneteenth? And I was like, well, it's the day that the people in Texas found out they were freed. Everybody else been free for 2 years and they didn't even know. So, that's just my, that's my version of it. Okay. So, so just simple things like that, because we haven't educated ourselves. Not everybody are into history like that, or they feel like that was too much. That was too much. I don't want to watch that, or I don't want to read that, or I don't want to see that, because when I see that or I watch that, it's just going to make me angry. And I don't want to be angry. Or it's going to make me sad. And I don't want to be sad about that. So I just don't bother with that. So we don't educate our kids. Our kids, and the Bible tells us, my people perish for the what? The lack of knowledge. We all know the mind is a terrible thing to worry. We know the slogan. We know that it starts in the mind, And before it can get to the heart, it starts in the mind, And I remember my sisters saying, if the mind thinks that the heart believes it, you can achieve it. So it has to start here. And because we don't want to deal with things, and it's not that, I don't think that it's that we didn't think it was important, but we just figured, we weren't born way back then. I don't know anything about that. And I'm getting this information from people that is giving it to me that wasn't back then either. So it's almost kind of like the Bible. We say the Bible was inspired by God. So, did the people write it verbatim? Did they give a synopsis? Are we getting the authentic truth? So, and that's kind of what people kind of view sometimes as our Black history. Is it the authentic truth? Now, I don't care which way you slice up the pie. I'm going to eat the piece that says, I don't care how the Bible was written. I believe it, because if God said it, I believe it, and that settles it for me. So I'm good. So again, it's not a religious conversation, but it just brings me to that point of how people feel that we don't really know what happened. We watched Roots. Roots was the first enlightenment that many of us ever had on our Black history. And we saw that from Alex Haley's perspective. So what does that really mean? Going back to, no, not all white people, not all Black people, not everybody, I don't care what your color is, or your nationality, or your ethnicity is, not everybody is bad. There are good people. And there's always going to be good people. But unfortunately, we got to weed out the bad so that we really see the good. Mustafa, I think you have something you want to say.
Hello, can you hear me now? Oh, okay, there you go. Oh man, I just said so much. But I think with the pandemic, I think the real thing that affected the pandemic is you're right. It was people because they were shut in and they were out of their regular routines. And I think the video and a lot of the things, it all came to like what they want to call it, a perfect storm. Because I think the pandemic had a lot to do with it, because people were out of their normal routines. They were locked up in their houses. They were, didn't have the real social interactions that was going on. And it seemed like these things kept going on. But again, that was what people were living on social media. So when that video hit, I think it moved so quickly. It was out there before it was really, there was no narrative to it. And I think that was one of the things that caused people to now to press out, because if we remember before the Floyd incident, people were starting to push back about being locked in. And I think that just gave people, with their motion, to be able to now press out in the street. They had a cause, and I believe the cause was just and common. So I think that helped. That was part of it, what the pandemic did. But what I did want to touch on is when you talk about history. I mean, sometimes you have to be careful where people get their history from, because sometimes history taught out of context can be just as harmful as the truth of what happened. Because if you only want to talk about slavery and the abuses and all the things that went wrong, and this imagery. Let me just put it like this. I'm not saying, please don't get me confused to think I'm saying it wasn't good, slavery was good in any way. But also, when you teach it in a way where all you show is the abuses and the violence and the things that were done, sometimes that can turn people off from really wanting to study it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because if all you see is the violence and get it out of context, and because that will turn people off. Again, it's about presentation. And I think when we talk about history, and then as we move forward, because even in the midst, I'll fast forward out of slavery, because even after freedom and after emancipation and after the amendment was passed, there were still struggles in Jim Crow in different parts of the country, North and South. There was still struggles. But the thing was, the history we have to teach that as a people, there were success stories. There's people who survived. That's the word I want to use. We survived even in spite of. And I think that's the history where we can encourage the young people today, even what's going on, that we have to encourage them to keep striving and to survive. Because right now, if we look, all of us that are here right now, we're only here because our bloodlines survived. Grandma, grandpa, we're survivors. For those who did not survive through the atrocities and through all the things that happened to be here in America. So I think when we do history, we have to put a piece in there where you may have to endure some stuff, but you endure some stuff, and then you also working for change, but you still can't not use our history, which has done a lot, to say people have to disengage from the culture, disengage from using the benefits of those who struggled before you. So I think there's like I say, history out of context can be harmful too, because unless we do it and we are pushing people forward in spite of, that's where, understanding history and teach, like the sister who was mentioned in Annapolis, all that stuff she talked about, generations, that started in the home. And I think the other part of history is, I think we worry about, because we worry about the systems teaching history. Because again, it has to start in the home. It can start a lot of different places. But we always want to put it on the schools, and we want to put it on the public school system. But then we want to put everything else in the public school system, because we got kids in public school now we talk about kids who don't eat. They know how much food they're giving away, because they know how many kids don't have regular meals in their homes, but if not for the school system. So, it's a lot to it. And I think the other sister was saying too, the schools is a place where every parent, that's one of the things I preach and I say for my kids. The school system is where every person can be involved. That's a system, and that's a bureaucracy that every parent can engage in, because I think that's the first front line, is the public school system, and using education and trying to affect change and affect the way things are really being done. Because again, my thing is, how are we going to affect the change we're looking for, and how are we going to instill it that we can still move forward and still have a positive impact on the future. Again, what's going to come of all these deaths and this violence and these injustices, and how is it going to really change? And I think that's what we're all saying it here. It has to start with us, and then those around us in our circle of influence, how that thing goes out. That's just some of the things I was thinking about. And then you threw in, those hangings. The first thing I thought about because I guess this is just me, I'll throw it out to the group. But when I heard about folk that they were finding folk being hanging themselves, committing suicide, possibly, some of that is mental health issues. You don't know what people going through, and you have to be careful because the media in this climate will do that. They'll just throw it out there. Black person hung from a tree. That's it. No context, no nothing. And in this environment, that just fuels the fire because you don't know because mental health in our communities is a thing. And some people, suicide is not one of the things we don't really, talk about, but that, so again, again, the media, the way media does stuff and puts it out there, all they have to do, just like I'll say this, there was an incident in Florida where the young girl, she was a protester, 19, she turned up missing. The media portrayed it like somebody did something to her. What did it turn out to be? A black man took her, killed her. Over something that had nothing to do with her protesting. But in those few days before they figured out what was going on, they portrayed it in the media like because she was a Black Lives protester, somebody came and got her. So we have to be careful in how we perceive things and how we perpetuate the things we hear and how we talk about it amongst each other because we get people stirred up again. Our emotions, if we're honest, our emotions, not many things get solved when we're in our emotions. We have to be able to calm down. We have to be able to think it through and come up with real solutions. Back to you, Sister Howard.
I agree with you 100%. Before we share stuff, we need to know facts. Don't just go by what you see, what someone else has shared. Know facts. Do your homework so that you're giving out finite, great, good, excellent, accurate information. And I know my daughter and I have had this conversation, and she and I talk about this quite a bit about posting stuff, especially on social media. And we talk about the fact of she definitely is a researcher. And before she posts something, it's going to be facts. And I've seen her go back and forth with some of her friends on Facebook or Instagram, and they're just saying stuff that someone else shared on Facebook. And she's like, where's the facts? And they don't have the facts. And so she's kind of like her mama. And she was like, state your source. And you don't have a source? Where did you get this from? Because I'm quick with don't tell me about Facebook. Facebook is the new Wikipedia. It has no validity to it. You cannot quote Facebook on a lot of things. Now, I'm not saying all things, but some things. You cannot quote Facebook. It is not, because it's just like Wikipedia. Anybody can put their information out there, their thoughts, their opinions, their views on Facebook. So what speaks? Facts, facts, facts. I see you, Galaxy.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just to talk about the whole pandemic thing, I do believe that because of this, it brought people to reality. We were living in an unrealistic reality. We thought we went about our daily lives as if nothing's really going on and people are getting killed. We're getting killed way before this pandemic even occurred. But we were being just not paying attention to what was going on in our society. And then when this whole George Floyd happened, and we're sitting home some people are out of work, some people are working from home. You have all the social media that you're on watching every day. So it kind of hit reality for people. We were just living on reality. Racism has been going on for years. And a lot of the young people, because of the time we're living in, we never pay attention to it. We feel, hey, that's back then. That was when our grandparents were younger. I don't need to worry about that. But now that all of this happened, is helping us to see that it does exist. And in order for change to happen, we have to be the change. And today I was looking up a quote by Martin Luther King when he was talking about how a lot of us are in our emotions when it comes to protesting. Instead of trying to bring change, we're just in our emotions. And he stated in his quote, "The limitation of riots, moral questions aside, is that they cannot win and their participants know it. Hence, rioting is not revolutionary, but reactionary because it invites defeat." And it doesn't, and a lot of them are under their emotions versus trying to cause that change to happen. And we have to start with ourselves. And a lot of the Black community, as he was saying before, the previous guy was talking about mental health. A lot of our Black community does not discuss mental health. And me being someone who's in that field, I feel it needs to be talked about more. It's always pushed under the rug. It's always not talked about. It's something that's just like, you'll be fine, go somewhere and pray, and you'll be okay. And yes, prayer is good, because I am a firm believer in prayer. But if you need someone to talk to who is here on earth with you, it is perfectly fine to go find that person you can talk to. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean that you're out of your mind. Is nothing wrong with it. Mental health needs to be discussed in the Black community. I'm so tired of it being pushed under the rug as if it doesn't matter, and it does.
Both of you guys have brought up great points, because mental illness does exist, and it has always existed in the Black community. We had the stigma of Black people don't go to psychiatrists. Black people don't do this. Black people don't ride horses. Black people don't go skiing. Black people don't eat that. Black people don't like pumpkin. Black people, we like sweet potato. We got all these what Black people don't do.
I don't like
and
pumpkin.
we've been suffering in silence. We've been killing ourselves. We've been killing other people. I watched For My Man. I watched Fatal Attraction. Those are two of my good shows on Mondays. Shout out to BET. On Mondays and Thursdays. So if Black people weren't doing this stuff, how did they create these shows? How did they create the one in Atlanta? We've been doing the same stuff that the white people have been doing, except for we didn't seek help. We didn't talk to anybody. We thought we can deal with it in the barbershop, in the beauty salon. We're just gonna talk about it amongst ourselves. PTSD is real.
Yes.
It's real. And we had a segment, Operation Care did a segment with Dr. Rashonda Thomas, Dr. Rashonda Strickland, sorry. We did it with Dr. Rashonda Strickland a few weeks ago, where she talked about mental illness. So go to my Operation Care page and you will see that hour of empowerment where she talked about mental illness, and that we need to stop the stigma of just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Those of us that's been in the military, we know that term. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. We got a job to do. We got this to do. We got that to do. But we don't deal with mental illness. And I'm so glad that it is starting to come out more. In the last few years, we're starting to hear about mental illness. And I think that, and this is just my opinion, but I think that the war fighters had a lot to do with that, because we had so many soldiers and sailors coming back with PTSD. Because back in the day when we had Vietnam, we said the people were shell shocked, and we just said they was crazy. We didn't give them anything. We didn't do anything for those soldiers. But we learned, okay, there is a problem, and it's now being addressed. And we giving it, instead of calling it shell shock, we're calling it PTSD now. And we're starting to deal with that. So unfortunately, our soldiers and sailors alike have had to deal with these sort of traumas, but it is real. And we need to get that message out that we need to seek that counseling. We need that counseling. Go ahead, Jerry B. I see you.
Hey, first of all, I wanted to go back and address the sister that actually asked us a question about being on council meetings and things of that sort. I can say, as the founder of Community of Love United, we make sure that we have community connections with delegates and mayor of the counties, as well as chief of police and county executives and things of that nature. So being in the know is a priority to us, for the fact that we consider ourselves a priority to the community. So need to know basis, going into these meetings of all sorts, because there's all sorts of activists out here that have different agendas. I have set so many different agendas that people are fighting for in the community, which is good, because knowledge is foundation to be able to handle things in the perspective that it is. So I just wanted to go back to that sister and let her know that. But in the same phase, we definitely, as a people, as someone stated earlier, faith without works is dead. Yes, so we have to work. We have to continually work throughout the year, throughout the day. Take a sabbatical, as some stating, there are Christians where Jesus sat out in the woods and just took and prayed to his Father, and then come back with a brilliant answer for the people. If you're going to be a Christian, if you're going to be an activist, if you're going to be a lawyer, or this or that, whatever you decide, let's bring this to action, because of course we have solutions. Solutions we have many of them, but the action to move that wherever you are and what county you live in. I'm in Severn right now, and I focus on the Severn area. But matter of fact, if you go on my page, Community of Love United Facebook page, we have a event this weekend. And that is basically for the community, that they could come out, and we're just going to speak about, we're actually going to speak about racism. I have had events where they had spoke about mental health. Yes, I've done research on that. I do research on everything that we have to speak about, because we have to try to bring the facts. So the facts are very important. I utilize people like Deacon Farr, and I utilize pastors. I've been to many churches. I have great relations with bishops, apostles, and reverends, because these are all information highway that can help you as to bring agenda together, because the people need a pastor, the people need a deacon, or the people need operation care. So if knowledge is power. So staying dormant, although I'm a Christian too, but I'm not dormant. I'm wide range, where I have that relationship with this or that, no matter what their color or what their thought processes are for the community, long as they're good. It is important to have a foundation, to stand on that solid rock of knowledge and knowing what you want to do, as God gave you the purpose, or whoever gave you the purpose, or whoever gave you the gift, to be able to relate to people in any manner, or that is positive. Yes, mental health is very, very important, and it should be actually geared towards someone who has that degree, or has knowledge about it. Of course, as you stated, Sister Hollis, seeking the actual realness or the authenticity of what you are researching is very, very important. So if you are trying to get research for a community person, the research is good, so they can actually see themselves. We are geared towards youth and young adults and senior citizens, but we are open to all ages, because we have had all ages come to us, but we don't turn them away, just like Jesus didn't turn people away. I thank God I have that love in my heart to know that where I'm sitting, I'm happy with. I work for the government during the day. I play drums for a church. I DJ. He gave me all these gifts, and I'm utilizing them well. If you have a gift, utilize it. That's all I can say. Thank you, sister.
So someone made a comment. Thank you so much. Someone made a comment about the fact that, you know, how do we keep from losing the momentum? How do we keep it going? How do we not grow tired in doing this? Because we know the longer we do this, you start to lose people. You start to fall off. How do we keep it going? What are some thoughts?
Real quick, as I stated, and I'm going to say this very shortly, Jesus rested. I look at what Jesus did when he walked this earth. He rested too. So rest, pray. If you don't want to pray, think about and relax, take care of your health, take care of your mental health, and then come back and take on that task.
I think you had something, Donna?
Yes. What I would like to say, it has been a great topic. And the way, by listening at y'all talk, and I think about my life, okay? The influence that I have on my sons. Like my oldest one, he's been in and out of prison ever since he's been 16. So he finally been out for 2 years. And I just been talking, yeah, Deron. I just been, because he even got his high school diploma and a certification in arts. So I just been talking word of knowledge to him, you know, speaking positive word, even though he have that mentality, I'm like, no, son, that's not you. But when I think about my life, like last year, I love cooking. I always love cooking. I'm a country cookie. But I thought about taking my cooking to another level. So when I turned 60 years old in August, I said, I'm going to go back to school. Haven't went to school in 40 years. 40 years. Didn't get my high school diploma because I dropped out because of trying to work and take care. But then my children saw me go back, got my high school diploma. They saw me enroll in culinary school last August. When I tell you it was rough because I had to learn all the new technology of math.
Think you're freezing a little bit.
My professor had to upload and download. Oh yeah, I cried and I liked to quit. But my daughter, they wouldn't. I said, well, show me how to do that. They said, no, if we show you, even Deron, my oldest one that been in prison, very knowledgeable of the computer. Mama, come here, let me show you this. And I'm like, no, do it. No, he self-discipline. And I had to sit there in front of that laptop until I got hold of it. Then I passed with my first semester. And then I went into the culinary part before the corona took us out. I began to eat food. Like you said, we were black, it was certain food. You can never catch me eating an eggplant. You would never catch me eating this or that. But when I got into culinary school, and I began to work with these different type of vegetables, this different type of meat, and the way the chef taught us how to cook it, it was very tasty. So now what I did when this started happening, by my son, and I don't call him gangster because I will not label him like that, but I will label him as a good leader, a great influence to the other men that he hang out with, where he stay. And most of the men that I have learned, because I be carrying dinner up there too. I got my reason why I do certain things for them. They have degrees. They are very smart. So if I can get him to be on the right track, then he can influence the others. Come on, y'all young men, hey, you might not be able to go at the president office right now, but start in the commission office in your community, in High Point where we live. Go and sign up. Yo, you have a diploma. You have a degree. Y'all have education to voice y'all opinion. Go there. Start there. Your next road, be the center. So if I can get him on the right track and he influence others to get on the right track, I really believe we're gonna get this thing together. It's gonna be a process and it's gonna be hard work. But if they saw their mama at 60 years old can press on and they see me cry and they see me wait like, man, I'm forget this. Lord, I love you, but I ain't finna do this. But then I kept right on. Why? Because my goal is to be a personal chef. I love community cooking. I love my catering, but the money come through my personal chef. So that's how I taught it. Son, you see what I'm doing? You can do it. And then I began to pray for him because a lot of time we as mom, we can be, I could say, overzealous as being a woman. And by their father's not there, and I don't bring that up to him about that. But I said, son, you can do this. You got the potential. I told him, there's a book in you. Get a piece of paper. And by God's grace, my book will be 2 weeks on Amazon. My testimony of my life. So they seen that mama, had been on drugs, came back and got herself together. Yeah. Got a ministry, got a drug outreach ministry, wrote a book in college after 40 some years. Yes. And I let him know it's never too late. Long as you got breath, age doesn't matter. Gotta put the right people in the right place that will put you where you need to be put. But your mindset got to change. You can't go with gimmicks and you can't go with games. But first of all, know what your purpose is. Know what you've been called to do. You say you're a man, a leader, and he's talking. And before he first got out, he used to use this word, I'm a bad nigga. No, you're not. Why ain't a nigga? That's what they say. No, a nigga is someone that act unseemly. Read your dictionary. We've been labeled that because of through the culture, but we're not niggers. We the only race don't know who we are. First we were nigger, then we were color, then we were black, then we African American. We the only one that have changed our nationality. But when you know who you are, and I talk to him very strongly, I say, if you go out there, tell them to do the right thing. Don't go, and by God's grace, thank the Lord, he been out there, he just been standing. But he have not broke into nothing. He haven't stolen anything. And he came today and he was talking to me and he began to cry. And I said, what's wrong? And my son will be 40 in November. By the grace of God, he'll be 40 years old. And I said, Jerome, what's wrong? He said, Mama, I'm seeing colors. I'm seeing numbers. I say, what colors are you seeing? And he began to tell me he see red, yellow, and green, the lights that's on the stoplight. Okay? I said, okay, go ahead. And he said, Mama, people that have made me angry, when I see them and I get ready to hit them, it's like their face turn into a cloud, a white cloud. I said, that's the Lord wants you to forgive people for what they done to you. Forgive what happened in your past. Forgive yourself for not even being there for your daughters. You can't change the past, and that's what I had to let him know. When your mom was out there, I couldn't change what happened I did in the past, but I better my future. And he said, Mom, you're right. And I said, that's what you can do. Don't worry about what's in the past. The past is the past. It's from where you go from now. So you don't have to get out there and riot. You don't have to. You can make a positive image to them boys that you hang around. And when you do, bring them this way. I cook and feed all of them free. Because I got a plan to change their mind and to change their heart to where the world system, because the whole world is just changing in front of us, and we're gonna have to adapt to it. We're gonna have to adapt to it. So that's where I really talk to him, and he's the main one that I stay on very hard because he's been pulled towards the Lord because he know the Lord, but then things that happen in his youth life and in his young life. But he's doing better, and like I say, by God's grace, he didn't go out there and loot on nothing here in High Point. So that's why I say it starts with at home, where they can see a positive image. So they don't see their father, but they see their mother as being a positive image. So
Donna,
that's where
I
I think
commend you for all that you have done and how you have just turned your own life around and became that example that your kids needed to see. And that's what we need more of. We need everybody, because as I said earlier, each one teach one. We learn from each other.
Yes.
So we have to teach each other. The more education that we get, is going to be detrimental for us. We have to be knowledgeable, because first of all, when you get to go see the governor, when you get to go see the mayor, you need to know how to talk, first of all.
Right.
So education is going to be important, because if you can't put 3 words together and make a sentence and make it make sense, we don't hear you. We don't hear you. So, and I may not be that person. So I'm going to take our information today and I'm going to pass it along to someone who can articulate better than I. But I wanted to just address a couple of more things, and we're going to get ready to close this out. But one of the things that was said earlier about how we sat back and we watched George Floyd die, and no one did anything, and how you didn't feel that really was the right way to do it. But the young lady that made the video was a teenager. So what is it that we wanted her to do at such a young age? I am grateful that this young lady had the mind to pull out her cell phone and to video this. It is a horrible video to watch, but I'm grateful that she did that, because had she not done that, we still would be in the dark and oblivious to a whole lot of stuff. We would still be going on in the pandemic like we were, just eating and chillaxing. Eating and chillaxing is what we were doing. Okay, so some of us was praying, and I get all that. I get all that. But I'm grateful for this young lady, because, and also not just being a teenager, but being a woman, and you're coming up against 4 police officers. We have no power. What was she to do? And I'm not asking us to solve that question now. I just wanted to throw that out there. I am grateful for the awareness that we have now. I agree with you, Stanley, that this definitely woke up history. Definitely woke it up. And like someone said, we done forgot all about the pandemic. What's a mask? What's a pandemic? Who is Corona? We don't know nothing about that no more. But what we do know is Black Lives Matter, and how we're gonna make things change, how we're gonna do things differently. So I definitely will say, though, while we're out there, while we're protesting, while we're in our social gatherings, make sure that you do maintain your social distancing as well. So Kara made a point of saying how this can't just be blacks helping blacks. Someone else made this similar comment. This has to be a community involvement. We have to get everybody involved. So whatever your platform is, I don't care what it is. You could be the janitor in the bathroom. We've had artists that was discovered because they were singing in the bathroom. I don't care if you're the street sweeper. You be the best street sweeper that there is, but you get the word out. You educate. And someone made a comment about how they believe that a lot of white people seem to be racist or prejudiced or whatever the case may be, not because they was taught that, but basically out of ignorance. They just don't know. So we need to help them understand. And I'm glad because I saw some of that as well on social media where people were saying, you know, what can I do? How could I help? I'm sorry about this. I didn't know. And others are responding with, well, this is how you can help. This is what you can do. So we need to make sure that we're educating not just our children, but educating the community. Talk about it, because we have not really talked about it. And you know, someone made a comment and they said, oh, well, what's going to be the difference, because you guys already done the Million Man March. You had 1 million people out there. And what happened at the end? Well, I think that what happened, and again, this is just, you know, you can read this in the book of Hollis, because, you know, if you look at the book of Hollis in, you know, chapter 36, verse 1, it's probably going to say something like, I believe everything compiles on top of each other. So I don't believe that the Million Man March was in vain. I believe that it was a starting point. And as Darian said, Jesus took a break. So maybe we had to take that break. Maybe, you know, now we see that we still need to be ignited. So now we've got that fire again, because anything that you do most of the time, for a long period of time, we get tired of doing it. I'm a Gemini, so I don't have longevity like that. I want to go, I'm going to go. I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to give it all I got. But you can't give me this project and tell me you want it. We got 6, 7, 8, 9 months to get it done. Because my thought process is, okay, you gave me 9 months. I'm probably going to wait, depending upon the project, maybe about the last 2 weeks, and I'll pull all-nighters every night to get it done. That's how I think. But this is not that task. This is a task that is going to have to be longevity. It's not going to be overnight. We're not going to change something that happened 400 years ago. Like someone said, it ain't going to happen in 6 months. It's not going to happen in a year. You know, we're going to see small changes. But what is it that you really, really, and we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we really, really want to see change? We want justice. We want equality. These are the things that we want. And it's not going to be overnight, but we got to keep digging. We got to keep grinding at it. And even if I take a break, then there should be someone else to come along and pick that up. It's kind of like the runner. You know, I may only run the 50-yard dash, but I need to give the baton to somebody else. And now you take it and you go run 50. Well, this is how we're gonna get it done. But we have to stay active in the community. You know, we have to just stay in front of the people as well. Shonda made a comment about how we can't hold hatred in our hearts. And that is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. We cannot harbor hatred. So as we're dealing with all that we see going on around us, we have to remain prayerful, and we got to pray for ourselves, pray for our heart, pray for our own minds, that we ourselves don't get caught up. So I believe that our takeaway from this today is to educate ourselves, educate our children, educate our community, get involved, know what's going on in our community, vote, know who you're voting for. Yeah. That's what I think I've heard today. If it's a petition going around, maybe you need to start that petition. You know, maybe, you know, we need to think about, I know, what is it July the 28th, supposed to be like the don't, you know, buy all things black or something. You know, do we need to get back to buying all things black? That's gonna cause a squeeze for a whole lot of people, because we're so used to doing all things, everything, that we don't think about just buying black. I had this conversation with someone, and they brought up the point. They said, when we buy black, the cost is like triple, because black people have the mentality of, I'm gonna make this sale this one time and get all my money, because I might not sell no more. It's almost kind of like taking the girl out for the date, and she ain't never been to Ruth Chris before, but she figured she gonna go. I want to go to Ruth Chris, and I'm gonna get that steak, and I'm gonna have a drink, and now that bill is gonna run you $250 easy. And she figured, can I get a bag for my kids, because I need to take a doggy bag home? So she want a whole nother meal, because why? She has the broke mentality of, I need to get it all now, because I may not ever come back to Ruth Chris. So wow, I've had people talk about the fact that that's one of the reasons why they don't buy black. They're, they're like, I'll support the movement for, buying black on that particular day, but on a regular basis, they're not so sure about that, because, and then I've had people say stuff like, well, when I buy black, the quality is not as good. So with that, I say, then you make it better. Every place, every business has a manager, it has an owner, there's a CEO, there's a CFO, there's a president, there's a vice president, there's somebody. Just like you make the complaints at Red Lobster that you didn't like your crab legs, so you waiting on Red Lobster to send you some free coupons to come back there and eat. How about you make that complaint in that black establishment and say, hey, I want to serve you, I want to partner with you, here's how we can make things better. Because with what I've learned is, anytime that you have a problem, come with the solution. Don't just bring the problem, but come with the solution as well. What do we need to make better? Do my waiters or my waitresses need to do X, Y, and Z so that we can serve you better? Not you just saying, oh, I ain't going back there no more. Them black people, oh, they get on my nerves. Okay, well, you get on somebody's nerves too. Trust me, I get on somebody's nerves. I know I do. Yeah, but it's okay. This is how we're gonna grow together though. So we have to think about all of that, just going back to Black Wall Street. They were all business owners. They owned their own homes. They had the black community. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole masquerade, because if you don't know about it, you go read about it. But they were black businesses. They were Black owned. They were a Black community. Do we need to get back to that? How do we get back to that? One, pay your bills. Pay your bills. Get out of debt. Stop talking about the white man trying to hold you down when you're holding yourself down. Nobody's holding you down. I love a quote from James Brown. He said, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. All I want you to do is open the door and I can get it myself. So there are opportunities out there. We can get it ourselves. We just got to go get it. We got to have the mindset to go get it. We got to stop having the slack mentality, the broke mentality, the I can't mentality. Become business owners. Yeah. Just like we started businesses with making masks. Let's start a business doing something else that's going to empower our Black community. There's lots of things out there. I don't care how many organizations you've already seen. There's still something that's been untouched. Or maybe that organization that you saw on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, it's not in your neighborhood. So maybe you can start that one in your neighborhood. So I say that in my closing, and I'll give you guys a round if you have anything that you want to add, and we're going to close it out. Mustafar, anything?
Amen. Amen. Well, no, I have nothing to add. I like your closing monologue there, and that's encouraging for us because sometimes we have to take opportunities and move forward in it. But I do want to thank you for inviting me. Thank all those folks that I met on Zoom video. How you doing? And I think again, it's where we go from here, and then is it for each of us? How are we going to affect those in our circle of influence that we can make this thing? Make it different. And for the sister who talked about her going back to college, you know, I'm a man of a certain age. It's about our grandchildren. It's like about our grandchildren. Are the things they're gonna, you know, how are they gonna? Not that they won't have to struggle, but how will they handle the struggles, and will they have the tools within them, spiritually, financially, and mentally, to deal with the life that's coming before them. And I think that's where we can focus on that. And like the brother was saying, brother Boone, Darren, it's about mentoring. It's mentoring those who are not in my bloodline. Are we reaching out to the community around us? Are we really trying to make a difference for people and for folks and young people who don't have those positive and spiritual and supporting influences in their lives? And are we willing to sacrifice some time to reach them and keep it moving forward? Because things are going to change. It's going to get better regardless of what it looks like. I'm also a man of faith, and I know God is in control of all this stuff, and none of it is a surprise to him, but just how we're going to persevere and work through this thing. And again, thank you for inviting me, and God bless all of y'all.
Thank you for coming. Jerry B.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. God bless all of you on the panel. I know as a mindset today, right here and now, and as the coronavirus started, and then all of the unfortunate deaths and murders, I'm actually a stronger man mentally and physically, because I know I have to be in that form for the fact that, as Deacon Farr stated, we have a generation behind us that, as they did in the 60s, they had to pull them up by, as we spoke of, the bootstraps to let them know that once we have moved on to a better place, they have to take that place. And if we work so hard as they did in the 60s to be able to, so to speak, sit in those diners or go to the public bathroom that's with all different cultures. We have to, as a mature adult in culture at this moment, be it white or black, just as long as you have love in your heart, make a change.
Amen. Awesome. Ms. Jenkins.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. Good seeing you again after many years. Thank God for everybody that was on the panel. God bless everyone. And like Deacon Farr was saying, yeah, I have 18 grandchildren. So I need to make a difference in the legacy for them. And I pray that even after this is over with, that God give insight that we may be able to minister to the whole man in 3-part being, our mentally, physically, and spiritual body, that we can come up with a solution, and that we can come up with the equator of and wisdom that God give us to help our generation and get out there and, like I say, fight with them, but not physically fight, but fight in faith, knowing that you can make a difference and an impact in our world.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Purvis.
Okay, thank you for the invite, and thank you all of you guys I got to serve with and to hear from you today. Very briefly, extremely briefly, just want to sum it up with this. How will we keep it going? I think there's a divine timing. Election is just around the corner. Had this happened in 2016, we probably would have tired before 2020. But look at God. He still got us thinking, and we don't have to hold on that much longer. So I'll sum that up with divine time, just a little while, and get out and vote for change.
Yes, yes. And I'll say this in my definite closing. I just wanted to address one last thing. One of the questions was that we never saw killings years ago in the daytime. Well, you're right, we didn't, because the Ku Klux Klans were hoods at night and they did it then. So everything that we do to make change, we have to be intentional about it. We definitely have to go out. Again, vote, 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 teach, 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 educate, educate, educate. So I thank you all for joining me today. This was awesome. It was definitely something that I just didn't even imagine how it was really going to go, but I definitely appreciate you all for joining me. Thank you so much. And I am going to